Aladdin. Once upon a time, there was a boy called Aladdin who lived in Persia. One day, while he was playing in the street, a stranger approached him and asked him whether he was Aladdin, son of Mustafa the tailor. Aladdin replied that he was, and that his father had died a long time ago. Much to Aladdin's surprise, the stranger hugged and kissed him. He was overcome with joy and told Aladdin that he was his long-lost uncle from a country far away, and that his father might not have mentioned him before. That evening, Aladdin went straight home and told his mother of his newly found uncle.
Indeed, child, your father had a brother, but I always thought he was dead,
she said thoughtfully. The next day, Aladdin's uncle asked him to follow him. He led him far outside the city gates to a deserted valley situated between two mountains.
Aladdin, go and gather some sticks so that I can start a fire,
Aladdin's uncle said. When the fire was lit, his uncle threw some purple powder into the flames.
Abracadabra,
said the uncle in a powerful voice. Immediately, the earth trembled and a great hole opened in front of them. A square, flat stone with a brass ring in the center was revealed. Aladdin's uncle grasped the ring and the stone came up quite easily, and some steps appeared.
listen carefully.
His uncle said sternly.
Go down into the cave, and at the bottom of those steps you will find an open door leading into 3 large halls. Go through these halls and you will find a garden of fine fruit trees. Walk on until you come to a hole in the wall where a lighted lamp stands. Pour out the oil it contains and bring the lamp to me.
Then he pulled a large golden ring from his finger and gave it to Aladdin. He told him that the ring would protect him from danger. Aladdin was not keen to go in, but felt that he should do as his uncle had asked. Inside the tunnel, he followed the instructions. On his way, he picked some delicious-looking fruit from the trees. He found the lamp and quickly headed back to the steps. As soon as his uncle saw him, he cried out,
Give me the lamp quickly!
Get me out of the tunnel first, and then I will give you the lamp.
Aladdin replied. He was beginning to distrust the man who claimed to be his uncle. His uncle flew into a rage and threw some more purple powder onto the fire.
Abracadabra!
He bellowed.
Help!
Shrieked Aladdin, who was now trapped in the tunnel. Aladdin's suspicions were correct. The man was not his uncle at all, but a cunning magician who had read of a wonderful lamp that would make him the richest, most powerful man in the world. Although he alone knew where to find it, he could not go into the tunnel, as a powerful spell prevented any magician from entering. As Aladdin was unwilling to hand over the lamp, the angry magician returned to Africa and to his homeland. Aladdin remained in the dark tunnel, crying. He clasped his hands in prayer, and in doing so, he rubbed the ring, which the magician had forgotten to take from him. Immediately, a genie rose out of the earth and said,
I am the genie of the ring. Your wish is my command.
Aladdin was frightened, but bravely spoke out,
Take me out of this place.
As soon as he said this, the earth opened, and he found himself outside again. When he went home, Aladdin told his mother everything which had happened and showed her the lamp and the fruit he had gathered in the garden. When she looked carefully, she proclaimed,
Aladdin, these are not fruit, but beautiful gemstones.
Aladdin's mother decided to sell the lamp. She started to clean it to give it a newer look, hoping to get more money for it. The moment she rubbed the lamp, a genie appeared in a cloud of green smoke and said,
I am the genie of the lamp, and your wish is my command.
In shock, Aladdin's mother thrust the lamp into Aladdin's hands. He commanded,
Fetch me something to eat.
The genie came with gold plates and bowls filled with good food. Aladdin and his mother had quite a feast. Afterwards, they decided to sell the plates and bowls, and they lived well on the money they made for several years. One day, Aladdin heard that the Sultan's daughter was passing by. Aladdin quickly ran to his window and peeped out. As the princess came by, Aladdin saw how beautiful she was and immediately fell head over heels in love with her.
That is the woman I must marry, Mother,
declared Aladdin. Aladdin pleaded with his mother to go to the Sultan. He begged her to ask the Sultan for his daughter's hand in marriage on his behalf. Reluctantly, she agreed and went to the palace with the magic fruit, which sparkled so beautifully. When she reached the palace, she told the Sultan about Aladdin's love for his daughter and presented the jewels to the Sultan. The Sultan was delighted to see the sparkling gems, but looking at the poor widow in her ragged clothes, he said,
Only if you build a grand palace by tomorrow can your son marry my daughter.
Aladdin's mother then went back to tell her son what had to be done. That evening, Aladdin brought out the lamp. He rubbed the lamp, and when the genie appeared, he commanded him to build a great palace. The next day, when Aladdin arrived at the palace, the Sultan gave his consent for Aladdin to marry his daughter. They lived in peace and contentment for several years. But far away in Africa, the magician remembered Aladdin. Using his magic, he discovered that Aladdin, instead of perishing in the tunnel, had married a princess and was living in great honor and wealth. He knew that this could only be achieved by means of the lamp. The magician decided to travel back to Persia. He bought a dozen copper lamps, put them into a basket, and went to Aladdin's palace crying,
"New lamps for old!"
On this particular day, Aladdin was out hunting, and the princess, hearing the cry, decided to exchange Aladdin's old lamp for a new one.
My husband has this dirty old lamp. I am sure he would be delighted if I was to swap it for one of your new ones,
said the princess gleefully. When the magician saw Aladdin's lamp, he quickly took it and gave the princess a shiny new one. That night, the magician rubbed the lamp, and immediately a genie appeared in a puff of green smoke. The magician commanded that he and the palace with the princess in it be carried to Africa. The next morning, the Sultan found that Aladdin's palace and his daughter had vanished. Immediately, he sent his soldiers to capture Aladdin. Aladdin pleaded with the Sultan to grant him 10 days to find the princess, and that if he failed, he was to be beheaded. The Sultan granted him his request and released Aladdin. Very sadly, Aladdin left the Sultan's palace and walked to the banks of the nearby river. He knelt down and clasped his hands together to say his prayers. In so doing, he rubbed the magic ring, which he still wore, and a genie appeared at once. Aladdin cried,
Save my life and bring my palace back.
That is not within my power,
said the genie. Then Aladdin said,
Please, I command you to take me to my palace and set me down under my dear wife's window.
Soon Aladdin found himself in Africa, under the window of the princess. Very quickly, Aladdin asked her what had happened to the old lamp, and the princess told him how she had exchanged it for a new one.
The magician carries that lamp everywhere. He told me that I must marry him, as you have been beheaded by my father,
said the princess. Aladdin and the princess then decided on a plan. That night, when the magician came back, the princess told him that she had decided to stop thinking of Aladdin and wanted to be reconciled with him. As a gesture of their reconciliation, she asked the magician to drink wine from her cup.
This is excellent news,
he said, as he took a greedy gulp from the cup. Unbeknown to the magician, the princess had put in some powder into the wine which Aladdin had given her. Immediately, he fell into a deep, deep sleep. Aladdin had been hiding behind the door. He quickly appeared and took the lamp from the sleeping magician. Next, he summoned the genie. Aladdin requested that the magician be taken outside, and their palace and all in it should be transported back to Persia. Very soon, they were safely back home. The next morning, Aladdin greeted the Sultan with the princess by his side. From that day on, Aladdin and his wife lived happily ever after.